Final Fantasy 15 episode Gordon Ramsay. The final Fantasy 15 DLC is finally here. Except it's not, because this isn't the final DLC. They're giving us more. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, I thought we'd sit down and talk about Final Fantasy 15's recent DLC episode Ignis. I purchased the season pass back in September to try out the Comrades beta, and have since not used it to play through any of the DLC episodes, meaning that episode Iggy is my first. So this video will not be comparing episode Ignis to Prompto or Gladio's episodes, as I'm yet to try them, but we'll eventually get around to doing a similar video for them too. Also, spoiler alert fam, we're going to be talking about the juicy details, and if you plan on experiencing the juicy details for yourself, then I suggest you get to playing. The DLC throws you into the great battle between the Empire and Leviathan, and of course we get to fill Ignis' shoes. We get a look at what Ignis is getting up to during this time, and the mystery behind how he lost his vision is finally explained. The DLC is broken up into 3 chapters, all of which will take about 2 hours, however there are multiple endings and we'll get to that later on. Chapter 1 starts off with Ignis being separated from Prompto and Gladio and has us doing things on our own. Ignis' goal here is to make it through the ruins of Altissia to get to Noctis and save him, and this is the entirety of the DLC. However, fear not, this isn't just a skip and a hop through the park. We'll be flailing around sharpened elemental toothpicks, pulling off some Assassin's Creed shit, and driving a boat through World War VIII. Even though there isn't much game time here, for what little it contains, it was certainly enjoyable. Chapter 1 is the longest out of the chapters, as you get to explore a decent portion of Altissia. The city is under attack by the Imperial forces, and in Chapter 1 you're able to drive back the forces out of the districts. This is where the sitmap system comes in, allowing you to view each district and see what one is currently overrun by Imperials. The game doesn't force you to visit each district and take back the city, which was a little bit disappointing seeing as Square put some time into this new system, and the only part of the DLC where the sitmap can be used is Chapter 1. Because this DLC is quite short, making the player take back the districts really would have added to the overall game time. However, you can always return to Chapter 1 and take back the districts in your own time. The portion of Altissia you get to explore within Chapter 1 is actually pretty big, and if you wanted to, exploring all of it and taking back the districts will probably clock in the same amount of game time it takes to finish the DLC. I was pleasantly surprised to see such a large open space to explore, especially seeing more of Altissia, a place I felt needed some expansion within the main game. The freedom of exploration here was also surprising due to the introduction of the hookshot, which you'll obtain at the start of the DLC. This allows Ignis to quickly grapple to any roof or surface so long as the prompt appears, and although I was thinking at first that putting something like a hookshot into Final Fantasy 15 would be extremely clunky, it actually works really well. The gameplay here is where I felt the DLC shines the most. Ignis is a lot of fun to control. He focuses on quick, speedy attacks with his daggers and can imbue them with 3 different elements: fire, thunder, and blizzard. Each element changes the way the daggers attack, and you'll be constantly cycling between elements depending on the combat situation. Frostbind, which is blizzard, allows Ignis to attack multiple enemies at once while slowing them. Flamebind focuses on single target damage and satisfyingly melts enemies to a crisp. And Stormbind allows Ignis to perform dash attacks and quickly zip through targets. As you're landing hits, Ignis' damage multiplier will increase so long as you don't take damage or go without landing a hit. We also have another ability called Total Clarify, which in a way is like a special meter. As you're doing damage, the gauge will fill, and when max, can perform a special attack depending on what elemental bind you're using. Ignis also has 2 technique attacks to use as well. The first one is High Jump, which is a super slick Dragoon Lancer dive attack that sends Ignis into the air to come striking down, dealing some strong damage. And the second is Overclock, which temporarily boosts one of Ignis' elements for a short amount of time. All around, Ignis' gameplay is a lot of fun due to his crazy fast speed and strong elemental attacks. Chaining together the right elements can create some really fun gameplay. The second chapter throws you into an alliance with Ravus. Seeing as the Empire pretty much destroying everything, yeah, they don't really like this city much. Ravus sees fit that he'll do anything, even if it means going against the Empire to save Luna. The second chapter slows the pace down a little bit. There's a few fights here and there, but otherwise it consists of stalking robots and pressing a mega ultimate stealth kill button, which is just X. And they take it from there. I mean, that's it. Yeah, I really would have liked these 3 robot encounters to be actual fights, but rather they're just there to be there. Okay. We finally make our way to the altar to find Luna and Noct. Ravus spins out of control as he doesn't quite understand the reasoning behind Luna's sacrifice.
Get out of my way!
Look, just chill out, buddy, it's for the greater good. After Ignis successfully gives Ravus a slapping, Arden then shows up to execute Noctis. At the start of episode Ignis, we see a scene where King Regis appoints a young Ignis to dedicate his life to protect Noctis, and I felt like this point in the DLC here really displays that. Arden offers Ignis to come with him opposed to dying a watery death. At this point, the game gives you two options. However, on your first playthrough, you're only able to select Fight Back, which is the canon option. Upon finishing episode Ignis, you're able to jump right back into chapter 3 to then select the second option, which we'll get into later on. With no other choice, Ignis decides to put the Ring of the Lucii on in order to fight against Arden. Of course, Ignis is not of royal blood, so naturally the ring rejects him. However, Ignis asks the kings to temporarily lend him their strength in order to protect King Noctis. Ignis, however, had to make a sacrifice in order to harness this power, that being his eyesight, and holy shit, look at this Virgil looking ass! I want to see more of this Iggy. The Arden fight was pretty enjoyable, especially how badass Ignis looks during it. The ring doesn't change the gameplay up much other than increase your damage and damage multiplier, as well as allowing Ignis to warp dash. After the fight, Arden disappears and Iggy has successfully fulfilled his role of protecting the king.
Please, forgive me.
Why are you apologizing, Iggy? You did fine, my dude. Shortly after, Prompto and Gladio find Ignis and Noctis, and Chapter 10 within Final Fantasy 15 begins. Once you've completed your first playthrough, you're then able to select Extra Verse. This will send you back to Chapter 3 where you face off against Arden, but you're now able to choose the second decision option, that being to go with Arden. This option is the non-canon choice, as it puts Ignis in a timeline where he is sent to Zig Nardus Keep and banishes Arden using the ring's full power, almost completely sacrificing his own life in the process. Shortly afterwards, Noctis, Gladio, and Prompto find Ignis, and Noctis uses the ring crystal to heal Ignis. We see a scene of the eventual outcome of this timeline where Noctis becomes king and takes the throne, however not needing to sacrifice his own life. While it was cool to see a what-if scenario take place, with it being a much happier ending than the actual canon timeline, this alternate timeline doesn't make too much sense, as it was explained by Bahamut that the chosen king will have to sacrifice his own life in order to destroy the immortal accursed, that being Arden. In this timeline, Ignis defeated Arden but only banished him. He even says that he will return for his revenge. So in this timeline, Noctis eventually becomes king and takes the throne, but doesn't have the conversation with Bahamut, knowing that he'll need to sacrifice his life in order to kill Arden. We can assume that eventually Arden will return in this timeline to come back for Noctis. So ask yourself, is this really a happier ending? However, the extra verse was a nice way of Square Enix playing around with the lore and making the players think, what if the scenario went like this? Extra verse also puts you up against a harder and longer Arden fight, with the ring making Ignis stronger and stronger as the fight goes on. Episode Ignis also has another mode allowing you to verse Noctis, which, might I say, Noctis has a lot of health, so keep in mind taking him down might take a while. Unfortunately, there's no special reward or unlockable for defeating him, so this is simply just a bonus mode. One other interesting thing that happens in episode Ignis is a vision of the future Ignis gets from Prina, Luna Freya's dog. He gets a vision that looks into the future, showing him what must be done in order to vanquish the darkness, which is the sacrifice of Noctis. So Ignis for many years knew what fate stood before him and his friends, knowing that one day Noctis would have to sacrifice himself in order to kill Arden. You must be wondering why Ignis never mentioned anything to do with this. Most likely because he knew Noctis would eventually find out, as he was the chosen king. All around, I really enjoyed my time with episode Ignis. I can't say that this DLC episode was the best out of the bunch, as I'm yet to experience the rest of them, but from what I'm seeing, episode Ignis has been the most well-received DLC so far for Final Fantasy 15, with having strong story points and fun gameplay thrown into the mix. I mean, how can you not like this? I didn't even know Ignis was capable of this sort of badassery, dude, but holy god dang. Yo, Arden, you a good man? You alright? Just quick teabag of the ground? Alright, cool. This DLC has a $5 price tag on it, which I'd say is definitely worth it. This is probably one piece of Final Fantasy 15 DLC you do not want to miss out on. However guys, that's all for today's video. In the comment section down below, let me know your thoughts and opinions towards your experience throughout episode Ignis. With all that being said guys, I've been Cynical, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.